Hey, thanks for dropping by to the Planners on Purpose podcast, created by Naomi Tucker, CMP. Now, this space is for the event planners to encourage and empower you so that you can fully live your life on purpose. So before we dig in, please take a moment to subscribe so you get future shows. Now, here she comes, your host, Naomi.
Shortcuts are meant to help you. Why work harder when you can work smarter? And that's why today I wanted to talk about automation hacks for event professionals and cover some basic areas in which you can incorporate automation into your work. So as you listen, just note where you could possibly use one of these hacks. And if you can, implement something off this list in the next coming week so that when you go back to work, you can have a little bit more flex, a little bit more bandwidth. And, it feels so good when you have a little bit of breathing room, right? But before I jump in, let me just quickly introduce myself. I'm Naomi. I'm an event professional turned high performance coach, holding your hand during these tough, stressful times where you are at the end of your rope and hoping to help you get through that second or third or fourth wind, adjusting your sails so that you can coast. If you're new to the podcast, or you've been around for a while, hello and welcome. So just today, I had to drop off a return. Yes, 'tis the season for returns and gifts and all of the things. And I was in a location. I think I was in Kohl's. Yep, it was Kohl's. It was so busy, but my mission was to get in and out with the least amount of damage. No looking around at all of the sales and all of the fun things that I could purchase for some gift. I'm not a huge shopper, so when I need to get in and get out. I think it's just because I get into trouble. So I typically have a particular mission and I stick to it. So today's mission was returning an item that was too small. And anyway, when leaving the parking lot, both exits, they were so overly crowded. They had very long lines and eyeing up the turns that they had to make onto this really busy road, which had all this after work traffic. It just didn't seem like there was going to be any quick movements happening in that line. So in eyeing this up, I just rode pretty slowly to one of the exits, but then I figured I'd make an adjustment. There was always an exit at the back of the building, and that's usually a place where no one goes. So that's what I did. I went around all of the traffic, the frustration, the hardship, and I slipped out the back way. I took the shortcut, a workaround, and boy, was I happy I did. As soon as I turned on the busy street, that same car that was at the head of the line was still trying to make their way. If only they knew. You see, shortcuts, they exist everywhere. And if we knew where they were and how they could help us, we would take them. That's how I feel about automation. Automation is a shortcut, and it can be a helpful companion for you to do your work. And automation can be pretty reliable. It can be easily adjusted and easily managed. So again, in today's podcast, I wanted to talk to you about some automation hacks that you can use to make things easier in your world. And I broke them down into individual hacks and then hacks that you can use for your business if you're leading a team or your company. So let's just start with individual. Now, when I talk about individual use, that's something you can use for personal and then also for business. And I would love for you to think about this as both. Who says you can't use what you've learned in your business to set up automation? You can't use in your personal life too. Many times we have email boxes that are managed really well for business, but our personal email probably is overloading or maybe not. But email automation is definitely a powerful tool. I just want you to consider all of the areas in which you can use it. The first area I thought was very helpful is out of office messages. I know, very simple, right? But let's do it differently. Instead of using our out of office messages for what we normally would think them is, which is really the out of office responder, perhaps you can use that same process and that same function to set up messages for busy times. Perhaps you're at a very busy time during an event. Let's say your registration just launched and there's just going to be a slight time lapse before you can get back to someone. And that time lapse is probably a little bit different than what you would normally respond or what your team would normally respond to. So perhaps you set up this autoresponder to inform people that email you that your time's going to be delayed due to a busy time. That's just a simple automation hack that you can use, not just for out of office messages when you're going on vacation or you're out of the office, but you can also utilize it for busy times. So it's really using that same function just for a different purpose. Now, there's another way that you can leverage your email system, which is to schedule your emails. Typically, if you already know that you're going to need a report from a particular person on a certain day, why not set the email up ahead of time and schedule your email on the date and time you would like it to go out? This can be super helpful when it comes to monthly emails that you need to send out, something that you know regularly you send out all of the time. You can create the email and set up a scheduler to be able to email out this email at the date and time that you need it to go out. And it's super simple to do. And this is something that you can set aside that time during your day to set up at a time where it's not as busy. Maybe at the end of your day, you can set something like this up, or at the very beginning of your day. But you could set it up for, let's say, the next few months. Put on your calendar a reminder to basically do it again, evaluate it and do it again at a certain time. And yes, you're all done. And it takes it off of your mind to do when that time comes. I think that's really a really great hack to use, which is scheduling your emails. Another way that you can use automation is using rules when certain emails come in. You can do this in Google Mail. You can also do this in Outlook. Using rules when certain emails come in, perhaps they go to a certain email box. And I'm not sure of the events that you plan and everything that you're working with, but let's say you volunteer with certain organizations and you want emails that come through that organization to go to that folder, emails that come through for a certain event. You want it to go to a certain folder. That way you can handle it differently throughout your day and set a set time where you go through a specific meeting within a specific box and answer those questions. So that can be a very simple hack that you can use to organize your email. Additionally, you can just seek out automation opportunities in the tools that you use, because let's face it, we all do not use the same tools. We have proprietary tools or just unique and different tools that we all use. There's so much technology out there, but many of these technology companies are leveraging automation. So it is important for us to know how we can leverage the tools that we have. So really getting into the nitty gritty of those tools, taking up a couple classes so that you know how you can automate is only going to be able to help you to make things easier. For example, expense tools can scan receipts and upload and pre-fill information that you need in order to submit an expense instead of you manually typing it in. Are you using that? If not, why not? If you're not using that, perhaps now is a good time to seek out how to do that. Take a couple minutes of training to learn it and then use it moving forward, because it can save valuable time for you. Also, this isn't really an automation hack, but it's just reminding you that many times there is an app for your phone with so many platforms that you use on your desktop. Are you utilizing your phone, especially if you have a work phone, to your best capability? Do you have other tools that you can use? So then that way, when you're on the go, when you're at a site visit, when you're somewhere else for work, that you can log in and take care of some of the things that you need to through these apps. That's going to be very beneficial for you. And it is an easy hack and simple hack to be able to make things go so much smoother for you. And then I wanted to just mention tools like calendar booking tools that can help you easily book meetings for people or with your clients and with your customers and even with your team members, making sure that you set up your calendar in a way that has your availability so that people can easily see what they can book, but then also utilizing tools like a Calendly or Acuity or Microsoft Bookings even to help when scheduling emails. Because what happens is there's a lot of back and forth in figuring out a time and a location for you to meet with your client. However, if you can just send them a simple link and have them book on your calendar, they can book for a time that's best for them, and we can be done with that. So those are really great ways in order to utilize automation that's available within a platform. And the last point I wanted to bring up is just allow tools to talk together. So if you do have a tool that has any kind of integration, seek out what that integration is and really utilize the marriage of both of those tools to your full advantage. So that was some tips for individual use with automation. And I think that the main one with individual is that email automation, really leveraging the automation that exists in the tools that you have, learning them and using and applying them to your world and see how that can really impact and save you time. Now, when we move into automation for leading others or a business or a company, I was looking at this as you having a team, or perhaps you having your own business, or you're just leading others with an organization. So really just that leading. Here are some automation tips that you can use. So I would say these would be, these can be kind of in addition to what I just described. And some of the ones that I described in individual can also be applied with you leading your teams too. If you hear something that I said that could apply to your team, of course, just use it. I just tried to segment it out for what kind of felt best, but a lot of these can be used interchangeably depending on what your role is. So again, I'm going to be sharing some other hacks when it comes to if you have a team or if you have a business and you're in the position where you're leading others. So the first one I have is that invest in products, right, that bring more automation to your team, because that can help lighten the load. We always talk about that our industry has a high amount of stress, and if you do see that there's a lot of a high pressure environment that your team is working through, perhaps finding different ways for them to have some automation is going to be helpful. When it comes to email, what works really well is shared inboxes for customer service. Being able to have multiple people respond to certain emails can be helpful. Also, utilizing tools like Slack or certain messaging tools can really help you to have things organized in a way that would be very helpful for you and your team. Consider setting up email rules, like I said in the beginning, to respond to your customers and your clients. Maybe there are certain days that you want to get out to them. Consider scheduling those on certain days so that you can take that off your plate. Scheduling any communications that you may have for your team and any communications that you may have for an event. Utilizing those tools to be able to do that. Prepare your communications in advance instead of being random and putting them all in your tool. Everything's pre-approved, and then that way they're going out at the time you need them to go out. Another cool one is setting up Autobots for Q&A on your website or for events or even on your company page. It just helps to relieve some of those service questions. Doing a lot of that pre-work beforehand in order to build in what the typical questions are that people ask and what your response would be are very helpful. I do find myself going to the Autobots if a website has that on their page. If I have a question, I would use it, and I have 80% of the time gotten the answer that I need or be pointed to a resource that gives me what I need. So setting those up can be very helpful for you. Utilizing a task manager within your email or project management software to help remind you of when tasks are due, but then also to put it in within some type of a workflow where everyone is notified of the next step and can move it forward. So this can work on the individual level where you just have a project management software that's kind of reminding you of what needs to be done, and it's helping you keep yourself on track. However, you can utilize it for an overall process, an overall end-to-end planning. You have everyone that's on your team involved in the process. They understand how it flows, and having it set up where everyone is notified of the next step. If they are responsible for that next step, they can action it. And by them actioning it, it triggers the next person or the next step. So that's so important to have on many different things. And there's so many different project management softwares out there that you can utilize for this. So I don't want to do too much name dropping, but definitely utilize a project management software to be able to help you with creating workflows for your team so that everybody is flowing really well with their work and they know exactly what they need to do when. And then also embrace tools like air booking tools or tools to book hotels. There are some great group air and group hotel booking tools that are out there. And I'll link to a couple interviews that we had on this very podcast with Group 360 and Allfly about both of their tools. But there are opportunities where your customers can book their air for groups and have automated assistance happening. Also with your hotel bookings, booking group hotel bookings, and even creating your BEOs right online and having it be automated. That is amazing. And it is kind of like a vision into the future of where we could go with event planning and making things a little bit more easier. So take a look at those tools as well. And then also just finding ways to have all of your different programs work together. I know I spoke about this before, but there are different tools like Zapier to just make your tools talk together. So if you wanted to link your email generation system to a payment system, you can do that through a tool like Zapier. So I'll also leave a link to that tool in the comments so that you have it. But that was my last hack for you. And again, these hacks help people work easier. They help people work faster. So I hope that you're able to embrace some of these tools and bring them to your individual world, bring them to your business, and overall make work a little bit easier, a little bit more bandwidth, and a little bit more wiggle room to do some even more important things. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you being here, and I look forward to the next episode. And until next time, please stay on purpose.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode. If you enjoyed the conversation, hit the like button and tell us how much you enjoyed the show by leaving a message in the comments. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.